Deputy Minister, Bank Governor. Allow me to cut the long story short and just say protocols observed. I didn't get the protocol list, so forgive me for that. I bring you greetings from my boss in Johannesburg, Professor Daniel Van Leeuw. I also bring you greetings from my other boss, who is seated here, Namibian, but also working at the University of Johannesburg, Professor Eita. Prof Eita, thank you very much for the moral support. I also want to say thank you to the Bank of Namibia for inviting me. I'm not going to say something new. Everything that I'm going to say has been said by the previous speakers. My presentation is going to be aware of emphasis on where we're supposed to be and where we are going in the journey of digital transformation. So I'll talk about the basics. I appreciate that Namibia has done a lot in as far as putting the background to digital transformation is concerned. The infrastructure is coming up. The institutional and policy frameworks is moving up as well. So I'm not getting into the technical details. Those of you who joined the lecture yesterday, we tried to get into those technical details. But for this one, it's a lecture where we reflect on what are the basic things that we need to address. What do we need to look at when we start the digital transformation journey? Everybody has been talking about the fourth industrial revolution. Namibia has done very well in that regard by setting up the fourth industrial revolution commission at the national level. And I'm very glad that my Vice Chancellor is part of that team so that they can share experiences and so forth. That is the start point. When you have an overarching policy framework and commitment from the government, then the different players in the economy are encouraged to tag along. And it doesn't just help by having an overarching policy framework. Organizations need to have their context-aware frameworks and models that can guide the implementation of different technological innovations. And the main thesis of this lecture, ladies and gentlemen, is to explore what are the key modules that get into the framework, the e-services framework that you need to have. Another thing that is very important at the start of my presentation is to acknowledge that Namibia has done a lot in as far as the e-government policy framework is concerned. And there are several aspects of programs that are being implemented in order to improve e-government service. Now, the e-government is also an overlapping project, an overlapping theme. Organizations need to tag along in order to participate in the economy. I'll give an example because most of the things that I'm going to present have already been said. SMEs, for example. If SMEs do not adopt progressive technologies, they cannot participate in the economy. The central bank talks about economic inclusion. How do you ensure that somebody in Katutula also accesses the digital opportunities? In South Africa, we were sleeping and we woke up to a root shock when the COVID hit. Some of us who had technology and the means to engage online, we continued the journey. But those organizations that are not digitally empowered, they were completely left out of the economy. So they could not participate in the economy for a period of 1 year. And if you move around Joburg, you drive around the city, you will notice that many of the SMEs have closed shop. Why have they closed shop? Because they are not able to catch up with what is happening in this digital environment. So we need to start from there. We need to create policies so that we can include all the participants of the economy. And the mandate of the bank, I know, is monetary policy and ensuring that there's economic inclusion. We need to part more on economic inclusion. We don't want to leave anyone behind. You can attest with me that what the what needs to be done. From the supply side, what the second speakers presented, you also attest with me that we already know what type of technologies we want. But how fast are we to deploy those technologies? What about the user? How do we ensure that users tag along? Because we can just supply technologies if businesses, if individuals don't tag along, then whatever we're doing, Honorable Minister, is useless. So we need to start from there. That's what I'm talking about. Having a balance between the demand and the supply side of things in order to achieve e-services. And basically, when you look at e-services, you are not only looking at the internal environment of an organization, you're also looking at the external environment. How do you design technological innovations that can be deployed in the environment? How does those technologies ensure that the business organization in which you operate, or the environment in which you operate, is connected to the environment? And by so doing, you can actually participate in the economy. So we need to look at ourselves. We need to look at the context in which we deploy these technologies. And I usually say the digital transformation journey is a step-by-step process. So you start one step, you go to the next. Of course, the first step, you'll be talking about what is the regulatory framework, what is the institutional framework that you have. And once that is sorted, technologies are moving so fast. Namibia is talking about cybersecurity. And they're going to come up with, if they come up with a policy that is rigid, not agile enough, 2 years down the line, they will have to sit again and use taxpayers' money in order to discuss and come up with another policy. So how do we look at even the policy formulation framework? How do we ensure that our policies are accommodative as much as possible? So basically, that's what I want to say in this lecture. I'll try to be as fast as possible. Understand that we're running a bit late. The technology is saying they don't like me because I'm talking a lot about technology. Let's see. I need some help. Sorry. Oh, this one. Okay, great. Yeah, talking about big things and not able to use basic technology. So I need to be empowered as well. My digital skills have to be looked at. Okay, I've already said what I'm talking about. Progressive technologies, those technologies that look at digital transformation as an integrated information space where different players in the economy are able to share information. We're talking about introducing these technologies, innovative solutions in different business processes. We're talking about people empowered with digital skills so that they're able to participate in the design of the technologies. They are also able to consume the different technologies, the different services that are offered by the technology. We're also looking at what kind of data we have, what kind of data integration frameworks that we have in place. And these data integration frameworks are not global. They depend on the context in which they're deployed. And also basically looking at what technology do we deploy. So I define, although digital transformation has already been defined, I look at it as a progressive introduction of innovative business processes, innovative technologies into heterogeneous business processes. And if these business processes have to be integrated in one way or the other, and you're looking at the pillars, the 4 pillars that I've just said, that is the outline of the presentation. For the sake of time, I just want to move fast. So why e-services? When you talk about e-services, you want to bring efficiency, you want to bring comfort into accessing the different business services that you have. It brings a lot of advantages because it reduces the cost to providing a service that you have, and it also is a lever to mitigate corruption. In different organizations, different working in the different sectors, there's COVID, everybody knows that it has pushed us to very uncomfortable positions where we are forced to innovate. I want to give an example before I go to the next slide. My bank called me and said, we want to integrate your bank account to all the digital platforms that you have. And I said, yeah, that's quite impressive. I have my Samsung Galaxy, I have my two phones, my laptop and everything. No, we integrate those. So when I go to pay when I'm in jogging, when I'm wearing my app, I don't need to carry my card. I don't need to carry my wallet. All my wallets are integrated in one application. I'll just do this, and I've paid. Look at the comfort that brings. If you see me, I'm not carrying any cards because I'm not getting used to that aspect. And the next level of technological innovation, we'll be talking about if Namibia goes to a point where the EID, the digital identification of citizens, comes to pass, and if you take the region allows, they'll at one time they'll say, look, we want to put a chip in your veins, and that chip is going to monitor your health status, the number of steps that you take. That chip is going to be connected to the banking systems. I want that. I don't want to carry my Galaxy. I want my body to be used as a digital agent and well integrated with different systems. I want to put my hand on an application and pay. That's where we are going. Every object in the world is going to be looked at as a digital agent. And in this regard, we're talking about AI of everything. This is something that is coming up. We are talking of Internet of everything, not Internet of things. This is going to be a thing of the past. And we need to innovate in that space so that we move where the world is going. I also want to say that the journey for digital transformation is a long journey. There are several hurdles along the way. And an organization needs to have a strategic, context-based strategy that says in the next 5 years, this is what we want to do. If you talk about digital skills, if an organization stands up and says, look, there are digital skills that we need to address there, and we're going to address it ad hoc, you're not going to achieve anything. You need a strategy for that. You need a strategy for infrastructure. You need to collaborate with different institutions. You need not only collaboration, you need to talk, not only talking, you need to share ICT infrastructure in order to move forward. Okay, these are the different pillars that you need to look at when you consider e-service. The vision and strategy, I've talked about it. The plans, the architecture need to put in place. Looking at the technologies, looking at the process and service standards, you need to have those minimum standards in order to achieve a meaningful journey as far as digital transformation is concerned. The other thing that is very serious also, data integration, content management, and looking at the different technologies that are coming on board. Looking at the Namibia context, I won't go into these. It's clear that the policy framework is well designed and well suited in order to advance the development of e-government services at the national level and e-services at an organizational level. So very pleased with that. The other thing that we need also to look at is how do we ensure that the e-services are actually used by individuals in an organization. We can create innovative technologies, and if there is no clear strategy to encourage take-up, we'll be creating white elephant systems. They'll be there in the organization, but they won't contribute to the overall stature of the organization. So we need to ask ourselves a lot of questions as on the slide. Awareness, how do we ensure that individuals have confidence in the different applications? If the cybersecurity bill is not enacted in time, I'll be very hesitant to put my medical information on government systems because I don't know where to end, and that information can be used to bully me. Unless I'm assured that these systems are secure, I'll use them. So if that is not addressed for me, thank you very much for the innovation, but I'll do the paper. I'll walk to your office, I'll do the paper-based. different mobile gadgets that I have. I need to access them anywhere at any time. So you need to consider that when these services are designed. Also, at an overall level, even Namibia itself as a nation doesn't, I don't know whether I didn't see it or the people I talked to didn't give me that information. It doesn't have the e-government interoperability framework at the national level. So how do you expect then, what are the minimum technology standards that people can dock, developers can dock their applications to? If you talk about e-government, yes, you're motivated talking about e-government, but what are those minimum standards? I need to have them. And once we have those minimum standards, you are able to achieve system integration, data integration, and so on. So we need to ensure that the systems are greatly connected so that we can achieve an integrated public service. And another thing that is that the bank will ask me is to say, when you're talking about all these innovative platforms, what is the value that we get? And for me, when I'm doing that business case, I need to convince the stakeholders that once you do these e-services, these are the benefits that you're going to harness. But the concept of benefit realization is a science of its own, and it has a clear methodology that you need to follow. So at the right of the conception of the project, you need to ask yourself, what does this e-service bring to the organization, to the overall competitiveness of the organization? How does it reduce the cost of running the business within the organization? Looking at the context in which your organization operates, it's a very serious question that needs to be asked. It's not just a matter of jumping on the bandwagon to say, I want to be prestige as well, to say my organization is using e-service. You need to look at your context. Maybe other organizations don't need e-services because the customers, the businesses, the people that deal with that organization are not going to appreciate the value of e-service. How do we ensure that you address that hurdle before you come to designing those systems? So, whatever innovation you put in the public service, the concept of public value that you need to look at, it is something that you cannot do away from. And when you look at benefit realization itself, we don't look at the monetary aspect alone. We look at the softer benefits that the organization is going to get. So it's not output-based methodology, but you look at the weighted approach, the balanced measured approach, in order to get the overall good of the project. So all those things need to be considered as you move. And then right at the beginning, I was talking about business case modeling. You have to ask yourself your questions. How does this innovation improve management? How does this innovation facilitate accountability? How do we link it to policy making? What are the ICT investments that we need to invest in? All those questions, and considering the context in which you operate. We are moving to the next stage in innovation. The previous speakers talked about the baseline physical ICT infrastructure. It needs to be in place before you talk about e-services. Namibia has done e-readiness assessment of government departments, trying to understand how ready the government departments are to adopt e-government and e-services. We need to refer to that and to see where we're going. We're talking about blockchain-based e-government procurement system, and I'm glad the previous speaker also talked about this. This is the future. We're talking about digital identification. I talked about, I want a chip, please put a chip. I love Namibia, let me put it on the record. I want to be Namibian if there was such chance. I also love Botswana. The High Commissioner, I don't know whether it's here. And yes, the High Dr. Serema is here. I love Botswana very much. I feel I'm at home in Botswana. I'm Zambian, and also we have the High Commissioner from Zambia. I'm not saying I'm going to change my citizenship. I'm committed to being a Zambian forever. But when you're talking about dual citizenship, I would consider a citizenship in Botswana. I would consider one in South Africa. I would consider one in Namibia. I was telling my boss actually that I want to buy a house here, so that every time I miss it, I just fly in. We talked about integrated e-services. We talked about sustainable funding models, cloud-based funding models. That's where we want to go. That's AI integrated e-services. The need for increasing automation. I cannot overemphasize that point. Trust, cybersecurity is going to come in handy, and the context in which we operate. These are very important baseline principles that we need to consider. Also, the concept of incremental adaptive design. Our systems have to be open. Our systems have to accommodate new innovations. We don't need to start from scratch. Tomorrow, technology guys will come to you and say, there's 5 iPad. Are you going to go back to your design labs and start innovating again? Then we're not doing anything. Are we going to do our policies again? No. Our policies should be adaptive. Our technology systems need to be as adaptive as possible. Okay, this is the e-services framework actually. I forgot to change the slide. These are the different things that you look at different levels, conceptualizing the logical view and the operational view. You can see the different models that are the business perspective, you look at application perspective, information perspective, and the technology perspective. How do you integrate all these models in order to have a technology that conforms to what these are going to define what are called the norms and standards in any given setup. So when I come to the bank, I want to say you are talking about e-services. Let me look at your e-services framework. And when that document is given to me, I will go to the information model, for example. I want to see the topologies. I want to see the architecture. I want to see how information moves from one place to the other. I want to ask my questions, is the data integrated? When I go to application design model, I'll ask myself questions. Is this something that is scalable? Is this something that can be redesigned in a different environment? Such kind of questions. So that is very important. I think I skipped a slide. Okay, this was I was going to discuss the modules of the AI government, but I don't think the audience is going to appreciate that. It's a bit technical. I'm almost coming to an end of my presentation, and thank you for your listening. The different projects that we are doing, and at the University of Johannesburg, our research I'm sweating like a pig. Now the university has a research wing, and this research wing is what I do, and my basic training and my basic focus is technology development. Any aspect of technology development, I'm now very focused in developing information architectures, information technologies, and we are very excited because of the fourth industrial revolution. Because anybody who does integration of systems, at some point will talk to us. They might want to do their own thing. It fails, they'll still come back to us, say, what are the basics? Where do we start from? So, got 4 different PhD students in my team. One is looking at blockchain and cloud computing models, dissecting the blockchain, looking at the architecture of the blockchain. Another one is looking at adaptive warehousing. Data warehouses have to adapt because data keeps changing. If you have a static data warehouse, at some point it doesn't make sense to the organization, and you think that this is just something that we're supposed to give away. But an adaptive data warehouse learns with the data that it has. So introducing the concept of intelligence in data warehousing, introducing the concept of cloud architecture, and also pushing in an aspect of fog computing. And now with the fog computing is edge computing, an aspect of cloud computing. That's what we're looking at. Another one is looking at robotic process automation, development of software bots. How do we deploy them in e-government systems so that the systems are intelligent, they're able to smile at one another, so that the systems are able to implement, let me say, to execute logical decisions, just like a human being. Systems have got feelings. So we need to engage these kind of issues. And another one just looks at AI, augmented government in general. Very excited because these are the the Sustainable Development Goals have to be responded to. How do economic players ensure that we contribute to these SDGs as we design applications? And another thing that we also need to engage with the contextual nuances as we design the modules. I've already talked about it, and I usually say it's a step-by-step process in the development of e-government. So let's start small and let's grow over the years. Another thing is collaboration. Let's share infrastructure, and also to take advantage of the fourth Industrial Revolution Commission that has been set up. Let's not only engage, let's give our input, let's give our thoughts so that we can be active players. The end is branded implementation. We cannot move overnight. We cannot say we are going digital because we will leave other economic players. So it has to be a blended approach. Africa is not ready yet because of so many gaps that in the different things that we've talked about. So it's blended approach. Let's go digital. Let's also keep the traditional way of doing things so that everybody is included in the information value space. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for listening to me. I took much of your time. I got passionate about this topic, but thanks.